Hello, my name is Amy Williams, and this is assignment 5 for EDTE 3308 about a school board meeting that I attended. I went to a school board meeting for the Mojave Unified School District. It took place in Mojave in Kern County, but it serves schools outside of Mojave as well. They have schools in California City as well in particular. They serve 3,000 students roughly, and they serve grades TK through 12. The school board president was Andrew Parker. There were 3 other elected school board members. Also, while I was there was a clerk, and the superintendent was also in attendance. The school board meets once a month unless there is extenuating circumstances that changes that. They do not meet in July, so the date I went was June 28th, 2018. The school board addresses a large variety of business. That goes from resignations and hiring of employees, student expulsions. They talk about education, so what practices they're going to be using and so forth. That could be like implementing Common Core or a new practice like Read 180. Technology, including all of that it entails. They discussed budget. That was a large focus when I was there. They also covered landscaping. They talked about cafeteria stuff as well. Calendar, approving calendars, readjusting calendars, and the budget, which was a large portion of the thing as well. I think I already mentioned that. Handbook, and revising policy overall. The general format for the school board meeting is that they have first a closed session where it's just the elected board members, the superintendent, the clerk, the president, and they all get together and they discuss things that they can't discuss in public, whatever that might be. It seems almost like really super secretive, although they do list what they're talking about in the agenda. Then they have an open session where they talk about other things. So when I was there, they were discussing the LCAP. They discussed readjusting calendars, the handbook, hiring employees. That was all in the open session. During the open session, they're allowed to have voting across the board to put something into action, and also to discuss with those in attendance, or if people have things to bring up to the board, they also do it during that time. So there were a few teachers and staff who were making presentations to the board. When discussing the atmosphere that I witnessed when I was at the school board meeting, I'm going to be also talking about some of the agenda items that I found interesting. So the biggest focus when I was there, besides discussing the budget and LCAP, was a large portion of it was in reaction to a previous board meeting where they were discussing PBIS in hopes of making changes, hopefully positive, in the involvement and engagement of students of the African American community in California City and Mojave, because there were many parents that were upset with how their students were being treated or what they saw was unfair. So the atmosphere was almost, I want to say, hostile, just in the way that you could tell that there were members in the audience that were very upset about things that had happened. It was clearly less hostile than it was the first time. They were willing to work with board members, but the board was also all white and majority male, and the audience members were predominantly African American and female. So it was just interesting to see that power play almost, where they both want what's best for the kids, but miscommunication and all sorts of things, and just wanting to make sure that the kids are getting what they need to be successful in the schools. and they're making considerable effort to do so with the implementation of PBIS, but also with professional development of the teaching staff, which I'm really excited to hear about, because that's something that I brought up in my previous school that I worked at about involvement with African American and minority students, because they didn't feel like they were being treated fairly as compared to their white peers. So I'm glad to see that Mojave Unified School District is taking an active approach to trying to fix those problems that they see in their district. Other items that I found interesting was that they discussed IDs and students needing to wear IDs at all times, and talking about how all the handbooks across every single school that they include to be the same, so that all the standards are the same for all students. A weird agenda item that I thought was funny while I was there was that I was actually on the agenda, and I didn't know until I arrived, because I was hired on in this district, so I was there when they hired me, so that was funny. Additional things that they discussed, I discussed the PBIS thing, and the LCAP was the main focus, and I really was interested in especially seeing all the parents actually care about what's going on in their schools and doing something about it, so coming to the board and trying to change things, so that was really awesome. As I've discussed previously, there was a very active and involved attendance of people at the school board meeting. Many were parents, but there were so many members of staff there too. There were people making presentations, they were working with the parents. There are teachers who were called out by the parents were openly willing to work with them, so I thought that was awesome. So even though it kind of, at first I was kind of worried about where this school board meeting was going, because some parents were clearly upset with how their students or their children were being treated, everyone was there to make things work and to help, so I thought that was cool. So I noticed that with the way that the board members were treating the parents, but I do see that there's kind of a disconnect with the large portion of students in the Mojave Unified School District being minorities, whereas the board members are all white. So that's something that I've noticed, that discrepancy, especially when you think about them needing to fight for the people. And so they even mentioned while they were there, they had said, you know, we want more involvement. They want more teachers who are African American, Latina, etc. And so while they say it's not really shown on the board at the moment, but hopefully with more parents that are involved, maybe there will be more diversity on the board as well, and maybe that'll help things as well.